The Citizen Tsuyosa line has been steadily growing its family for a while now. We had the classic Tsuyosa, then came the small seconds version. The 37mm Tsuyosa was last year's big surprise. And now, the latest addition to the Tsuyosa family is here, the Citizen Tsuyosa 60. So, with this newest iteration, has the watch become better than the previous versions? What's changed and what stayed the same? Today, we're going to answer all these burning questions, both for anyone thinking about buying a new one and for current Tsuyosa owners wondering if it's worth upgrading. Hey, quick heads up before we dive in, I changed the channel name last week, we are now Craft and Crown. If you've been watching for a while, thanks for sticking around through the rebrand. If you are new here, welcome, hope you enjoyed the ride. Alright, let's jump straight into today's review of the Citizen Tsuyosa 60. The case measures 40mm in diameter, 11.8mm thick and 45mm lug-to-lug, exactly the same dimensions we are already familiar with from the classic Tsuyosa and the Tsuyosa small seconds. In fact, it's fair to say that this Tsuyosa 60 we are looking at today is pretty much a hybrid or best of both worlds blend between the classic version and the small seconds model. That's why I'll probably keep referencing the other two throughout the review. The stainless steel case has vertically brushed matte finish on the top surfaces, while the sides and bezel feature polished high shine highlights, just like in the previous models. Citizen has executed this contrast really well, clean, sharp and more than sufficient for the price point. The crown is positioned at 4 o'clock and is a push-pull design, non-screwed on, with the water resistance still rated at 50 meters. Personally, I think if they could somehow bump that up to 100 meters, this watch would become virtually perfect for summer use, easy beach or pool sessions without worry. As it stands, though, it's still plenty solid for daily wear, rain, hand washing or the occasional splash. One thing I noticed, and I picked up on this back when I reviewed the small seconds version too, is that the crown here feels just a touch longer or more prominent than on the original Tsuyosa. It's a small difference, but visually it does protrude a bit more. That said, the overall case shape and proportions still feel identical to the small seconds model. Flipping it over, we get the familiar exhibition case back. And underneath is the big news, the debut of the Caliber's 8310 automatic movement in the Tsuyosa line. The original Tsuyosas used the long-running, reliable caliber 8210 with a power reserve of around 40 hours. This 8310 is essentially an upgraded version of that movement, stretched to a full 60-hour power reserve, and yes, that's exactly why they call it the Tsuyosa 60. Worth noting, though, the small seconds version already used an 83 series movement, also 60 hours, but that one had the small seconds at 6 o'clock. So technically, aside from the seconds hand placement, the 8310 and the small seconds caliber are very closely related, basically siblings. In today's entry-level automatic watch market, a true 60-hour power reserve is actually pretty rare and noteworthy. For people who value that extra weekend off-the-wrist buffer, this could easily become a deciding factor. For me personally, after wearing 40 hours reserve watch for many years, it's not a game changer, but it's definitely a meaningful upgrade that deserves to be highlighted. Beyond the power reserve, it keeps the same 21,600 beats per hour rate, supports manual winding and hacking seconds, and maintains comparable accuracy specs. One nice touch, unlike the standard 8210, the 8310 has a bit of decoration applied to the rotor and bridge. Nothing extravagant, but a welcome bit of refinement for the first time in this family. And now let's move on to the bracelet. The bracelet, I call it a Jubilee, but of course that's the name Rolex originally gave to his designs when it debuted on the Datejust. We are talking about the classic 5-piece link bracelet that's become so beloved. The outer think links are vertically brushed matte, while the center thinner links are highly polished, creating that striking contrast that really catches the eye on the wrist. But the appeal of Jubilee-style bracelets goes way beyond just the looks. The shorter links make the whole thing flow and drape incredibly well around the wrist, delivering exceptional comfort and flexibility. I've worn quite a few Jubilees over the years. They are one of my personal favorites, so I can say with confidence, Citizen has done an outstanding job here. The links are solid, filled, not hollow, so the bracelet carries the watch's weight without feeling floppy or cheap. It tapers elegantly from the case down to the clasp, adding a real touch of refinement. The chosen butterfly clasp feels premium and comfortable, a solid quality choice. The small seconds model's bracelet was already an upgrade over the original Tsuyosa's thrilling sporty one, but I'd say this new Jubilee-style bracelet is easily the best in the family so far. Moving to the front, we get the same flat sapphire crystal as before, crystal clear, no distortions and excellent legibility. The dial texture is identical to what we saw on the small seconds version, a three-dimensional, finely patterned surface. Of course, it's not hand guilloche like you'd find on ultra-high-end Swiss pieces, but with modern manufacturing, brands like Citizen are now able to deliver these intricate details at accessible prices, and Citizen executes it particularly well here. The date window at 3 o'clock with the cyclops magnifier over the crystal, honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of it on the very first Tsuyosa, maybe because the textured dial here makes it feels less like a direct Rolex homage. It bothers me a lot less now. In fact, on this model, I think it looks really good and integrated. The hands, indices and dial text are carried over from the original, applied elements with nice detailing. Especially when you factor in the price, it's honestly overachieving. As I mentioned in previous reviews, the Citizen and automatic text could perhaps be shifted a tiny bit closer to the center to reduce the empty space feeling. But honestly, I'm nitpicking at this point. It's a very minor thing. On the lume side, from what I can see, there is no major change compared to the earlier models. It's not, of course, diver level strong, but it still provides satisfying glow and readability in the dark, more than enough for everyday use. And yes, as you may have noticed, I currently have all three available color variants of the Tsuyosa 60 right here with me, and throughout the review I've tried to sprinkle in shots from each one. But now, if you'll allow me, let me bring all three colors up on screen one after another. These are three very different moods and personalities. Even though they share the exact same design, the color choices make them feel like completely distinct watches. Which one would be your favorite? Drop it in the comments below, I'd love to hear what you think. Now, let's go through them quickly. The black dial version delivers the most classic, timeless look. It's incredibly versatile, pairs effortlessly with anything from a sharp suit, where it looks elegant and refined, to jeans and a t-shirt, where it takes on a nice, casually sporty vibe. As always, black remains the safest, most reliable choice, the one that will never let you down. Next up, the green dial variant. The gold tone accents on the bezel and the Jubilee-style bracelet add a serious dose of luxury to the design. The combination of emerald green and gold is a classic that's worked for centuries. It just feels expensive. Personally, I've always thought two-tone, especially gold accents on a Jubilee, looks fantastic, and it suits this bracelet perfectly. It's stunning, but also quite bold and statement-making. And finally, this one, hands down the most striking variant in the collection so far. If I called the green one bold, I don't even know what word to use for this. Here we get a fully gold tone case, but not the bright yellow gold we are used to seeing. Citizen went with a rose gold or red gold finish instead. Warmer, softer and less in your face than straight yellow gold, yet still unmistakably luxurious and outside the ordinary. What's really interesting to me is that this is probably the first time I've seen a navy blue dial paired with a rose gold case on a watch like this. The two colors complement each other beautifully. There is a sophisticated harmony there. When I first saw the promo photos, I was convinced the green will be my favorite, but this navy one has seriously thrown me for a loop. It's neck and neck now. Alright, here we go. My final thoughts on the Tsuyosa 60. As you have probably noticed by now, the Tsuyosa 60 feels like a true hybrid. It takes the core DNA of the original classic Tsuyosa, the case shape, hands, indices, overall layout, and blends in some of the upgrades from the later small seconds model, namely the extra textured dial surface and that updated 60-hour power reserve movement. The real game changer here, though, is the Jubilee-style bracelet. That's exclusive to this version and makes a huge visual and comfort difference compared to the previous bracelets in the family. When reviewing a watch like this, there are always some hard facts and then a bunch of subjective preferences that vary from person to person. For example, I personally lean towards the blue dial version as my favorite, but someone else might prefer the timeless black, or maybe find the plain dials on the earlier models more appealing than this textured one. Those are all subjective calls. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What's objective the movement is genuinely better than the originals thanks to the extended 60-hour power reserve, and the Jubilee bracelet is a noticeably more premium and likely more expensive to produce choice. Those upgrades are reflected in the price, of course. We are looking at a watch that's a bit more expensive than the first generation Tsuyosa, but in my opinion, it's a completely reasonable and justified increase. Plus, the original models are still widely available and selling strong, so if the extras here don't speak to you, you can always go back to the classics. My personal take, Citizen has nailed it again. With some smart, well-executed refinements, they've created yet another strong contender in this price segment, a really appealing alternative that stands tall next to the rest of the Tsuyosa family. Throughout the video, I've referenced the Tsuyosa small seconds quite a bit. That model shares a ton of DNA with this one. I reviewed all its colors variants on the channel a while back too. If you haven't watched that one yet, just click the link popping up on your screen right now and check it out. It's definitely worth it. That's from me, guys. Thanks for watching, stay with the watch, and take care.